Thank you very much. Before, I had made a little bit of an error in saying that during the break the table needed to be clear. It's actually now that if you could put things in your lap and maybe move the water to the side so we can quickly distribute the materials we need for this next session. So I'll give you a moment. That means you can actually stand up for if you want to reach over, and it'll help all of your circulation and brain. Let's see. Do we need a little help in distributing those, or are we doing okay? Okay, so if you give one per table, maybe the table people could open it up? Mike, I think that people could open it themselves if we just give every table one, and it'll help. These are smart. We are all smart. You may want to, the one at the front table, I forgot your first name. Do you want to join a table? Okay. So be sure you're at a table with some other peers. It'll be a more meaningful experience. We don't need one at this table. Yeah. All right, so it's to be open but upside down. Blank side up. So Gary, are you ready for me to introduce you? Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. So Gary Magenta, Senior Vice President of Root, is who we're going to have next. And he also helps us through his sponsorship, and there is a table in the next room. With him, we will delve deeper into your brand work and the role of the boss. Gary, thank you, and always with your energy. We look forward to your talking. Welcome, Gary.
Ooh, that works. Well, thank you for having me. Am I a little loud, guys? Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning. I am officially the only thing standing between you and lunch. So there's little candies on the table. If we go over, I suggest that you grab them now, because there are not that many of them.
I don't let you go.
No, not at all, huh? All right, so good morning. I am so thrilled about some of the things that have been talked about this morning. And I'm sure this was by design, but the tie together today for me has really been about leaders and managers. Some of the things that I've heard are shadow of leaders, storytelling, the importance of managers, talking with people, getting everyone in the game. And we're talking about brand, and that's such an emotional thing. Brands are created really by a series of experiences that we have with our consumers, our customers, B2B, B2C, B2B2C. It's a series of touch points, digitally and live, but behind those touch points are people and emotions and connectivity. And yet, oftentimes, our brand breaks down in those moments. So we spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of building this great brand, and it gets broken in 30 seconds of a bad experience with an individual. So today we're going to talk about that in the context of how do people leaders really influence all of those touch points. We're going to talk about extending your brand to your employees and through your employees. I'm just realizing the slide isn't moving because I'm not pressing anything. Okay. I was so excited to see what was next. Okay. So, again, we spent all of this money working on creating a brand. But brand creation without execution is absolutely meaningless. So build this great brand, hire the best consultants, lock yourself in the room, and you've got this great brand. And so many times it sits on the table. It doesn't go anywhere. In order to execute your brand, you have to do it through people. So brand creation without execution is just meaningless. And execution without people is simply impossible. In other words, if you want to bring your brand to life, you have to leverage your people to do it. Almost every speaker today has touched on that. So my belief is, my understanding is, my research and my work tells me that managers are actually the conduit between your brand and your people. The reason why we heard today so much about employee engagement and the importance in the research is employee engagement and brand experience, or employee engagement and your strategy have a direct link. If your people aren't engaged, it's because they don't understand your strategy. People can't be engaged in a game they don't understand. It's like me going to a football game. My son was a captain of the football team. I have no clue what a first down is. I show up to the first game and all I want to know is how is he not going to break his leg, right? My wife, on the other hand, knows a lot about football, so she tries to teach me. The reality is I couldn't cheer for the game. I didn't know when to yell yay and when to yell boo. So I remember my first game, I went, yes! And my wife says, the other team scored a goal. True story. People can't be engaged if they don't understand the strategy, the rules, etc. That's a manager's job. And most of your managers are not set up for success. And it's not their fault. It's yours. Let's talk about that. Not you individually. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I see that. Okay. Let's talk about that. By the time you leave today, you'll have a few secrets to how to better set up your managers for success. So let me tell you a little bit about my story. I was in my 30s, actually, before I had my first real job. After school, I became an entrepreneur right away. My very early 20s through my mid-30s, I was working for myself. And that was going really well. And I had this unique opportunity to sell my business at 33 years old. And I took it. I was working a lot of long hours. I was in the hospitality business. I had 2 young kids, and I thought, well, this is a great opportunity, get a little cash, and spend some time with my family. And within a short time, I was offered a job with a large corporation in Chicago. I was living full-time in Florida. And so I moved my family to Chicago over a 4th of July weekend to go work for this large company. I'd been working for them remotely for a few months before I made the move, and I walked in my first day, and I walked into my first manager's office at 33 or 34 years old. I said, "Hi, Ken." Yes, it's his real name. Won't tell you the last name. "Hi, Ken. How are you?" And he says, what do you think he said? What was his welcome? "Who are you?" "Thank you. Who are you?" "Pretty close." "What are you doing here?" "Is this your first day at corporate?" "Really? I guess I forgot. I don't really have a place for you to sit." "Listen, go see my secretary. She'll get you all set up and come see me later this afternoon." So I go back later this afternoon. What do you think he says? "We agreed to pay you how much?" "Wow, that's really not going to work." "Wow, you make more money than other people in the department. I don't think this is going to work out really well. Do we want to negotiate that?" And I said, "No, I don't want to negotiate that at all. Matter of fact, I'm not going to negotiate that." So in my first 2 meetings with him, he was surprised at my entrance and then was surprised at how much he was paying me. Okay, well, this has got to get better. I went into a small phone booth in the company, and I called my wife, and I said, "We've made a huge mistake. Stop unpacking." This is hour 4 of the meeting. Stop unpacking. Too late. I think this is going to get better. I have waited 3 months to get to this corporate office. I'm so excited. I had never heard from my manager before. I had never talked to him in the 3 months. I had tons of ideas. I'm going to hit the road running. I'm going to be a huge success. I can be a contributor. So, "Ken, when can we talk about this? Ken, when can we talk about that? Ken, I've got an idea." When I'd get into his office, it was he and he alone who spoke. He talked at me while he was on his flip phone at the time, on his computer, and he would tell me, "I'm great, I closed all these deals, in the good old days, blah, 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 blah." Never once did he ask me a question. Never once, outside of, "What are you doing here?" did he ever ask me a question. What did I think? What did I need? What ideas did I have? What was important to me as an employee? Never once. So I became a corporate stalker. I'd wait outside the men's room if I saw that he was in there. "Hey, Ken, I've got an idea I want to talk to you about." I would follow him to his car at night, through that long parking lot. "Ken, what if we do this? What if we do that? What if we do the other thing? Listen to me, listen to me. I want to talk to you." So one day by his car, he says to me, "Listen, Gary, there's a right time and a wrong time to have a conversation. And hanging out in the men's room with me is probably the wrong time. So, well, it's the only time I get you standing still. I said, all right, good point, Ken. I've learned my lesson. There's a good time and a bad time. What's the right time to talk to you, Ken? And he said, well, there's not going to be a good one because today's my last day. I'm leaving the company. So I'm left standing in the dust as he moves on to his next organization, having had my first year with the manager, and I realized I was at a loss. I didn't understand the organization I was working for. I didn't understand what my role was specific to the contribution to that organization. I was rudderless. How could I have just come from How can I have come from just being so successful as an independent business owner into this situation where I was lost and felt like a non-contributor? It got me thinking, not only about this manager who I thought was terrible and still do, by the way, the nicest guy, but what kind of a manager was I? And I thought, oh my God, I remember having to give difficult feedback. I remember trying to engage people in conversation. And in order for me to do that, I'd have to give that feedback. I have to get so angry that I was in yell and tell mode a lot from 23 to 33 years old. I was a really bad manager myself. What I know is that your brand is created out of customer contacts and the experience your customers have with you, right? Ultimately, that brand experience that your customers have will never exceed your employees' experience. The brand experience your customers have with you will never exceed your employees' experience. For me, I was doing a poor job of bringing my company's brand and strategy to life because I wasn't engaged, because I had a manager who didn't invest in me. I believe that. I also believe I did the same to my employees prior. So, what happens? We've got this brand graveyard out there. We've got brands who are not making it in the marketplace, who aren't relevant moving forward. And if you look at that, rest in peace. We've got no brand strategy. Rest in peace. We have a disengaged workforce. Rest in peace. We have a bad customer service. And the final rest in peace is, and your managers have the ability to change that. I want to tell you two quick brand stories. Two of my favorite brands. Hampton Hotels. I have more points than I can ever use in Hilton hotels. Ever. I just can't sleep in hotels that many nights. I sleep in hotels most night of the week for travel, and I don't really love to stay in hotels for vacation. I stay in bed and breakfast more. So I am really, really loyal to the Hilton Hotels brands. Hampton specifically, Franchise 500 ranked them number 1 2011 through 2013. They became 2 in 2014, but in that top 2, 3-4 years in a row. They have been focused on creating an authentic experience at the front line with their brand, and they've been doing it by having their managers focus on very core issues, very core conversations with their front line. And let me just give you a story of how that came to life. Creating an authentic experience with me means that that frontline person is themselves and represent the brand at the same time. So I get into Memphis, Tennessee very, very late one night. I rent my Hertz car, and I do the thing you never should do, which is I back up on those spoke things, and I flatten all the tires. There's lots of paperwork. I land at 12. I roll over the things. I got to fill out paperwork for hours. It's 2 o'clock on a raining night in Memphis when I get into the hotel. I am soaking wet. I am ugly and tired, and I walk in, and the front desk person's there, and I say, thanks for waiting up for me. And she sees that I am snarky and sarcastic, and she says, no problem, come on in, you look like a drowned rat, let's see if I can help you. That's exactly what she says. I get up to the front desk, and she continues by asking me my name, and then says, as she looks at the computer screen, to identify my loyalty, she said, dude, you have a shitload of points. You need to go on vacation. I want to tell you that, I don't know Chris, my colleague Chris Williams, I've been telling that story for a year and a half. That's how long ago it was, and it was the most meaningful customer interaction that I had had to date. She recognized that I'm a sarcastic little guy. She knew that I was ready for an authentic experience. She read me, and she engaged me in a way that was authentic to her and having read me. And at the same time, she acknowledged my loyalty with the company, made me feel welcome, and got me settled. She put a spark in my eye at 2 o'clock in the morning after ripping up the tires of a rental car and a late flight. It was great. It's exactly what she was supposed to do. I know that her manager is focused on that conversation with her on how to bring it to life. That's not us, just so you know. So let me tell you another story. Anybody from Brooks Brothers here? Oh, good. I got very nervous. It's based here in New York. So as I said, travel constantly for work, and I fluctuate in my weight about 30 pounds a year up and down. At 5'4", that's a lot. That's a lot of waist size. But every year of my life, I pretty much am on this roller coaster, this yo-yo. So every time I lose the 30 pounds, I throw away all my fat clothes. I throw them all away. I give them away. I give them to Goodwill. There's a chubby little guy in Michigan or Florida or wherever I happen to be who's got really nice clothes from Brooks Brothers. And then I'm in this dilemma of, I can't fit into anything, and I'm on the road, and I've got to go give a speech. Let me go to the Brooks Brothers at whatever airport I'm in and buy new clothes so I can get on stage today. It's my life. I spend an inordinate... You don't realize, you don't get this. You have never done this, right? Okay, it sounds funny. It happens to be true. So I spend more money at Brooks Brothers than my wife spends at Zappos. It's bad. So I go into Brooks Brothers after having bought a skinny sweater. I was skinny at the time. Bought a skinny sweater, spent $180 on it. And I bought the sweater, I brought it home, and I washed it exactly according to the care instructions. And it shrinks into a Ken doll, okay, size. It's this big. So I go into the store the next day, my next trip to the airport, and I said, geez, I don't know what happened. I followed the instructions exactly, and the sweater shrunk. And her response was, well, that's your word against ours. I'm not taking the sweater back. Now, it's no lie that I spend $11,000 or $12,000 a year at Brooks Brothers. This is a Nautica jacket, by the way. $11,000 or $12,000 a year at Brooks Brothers for the last decade that I've been on the circuit, if you will, out in conferences. How much is that, 10 times 12? $120,000 in clothes, I can tell you, without exaggeration, at Brooks Brothers in the last decade. The brand experience that I had there was not delivered by a person who saw me as a whole customer from end to end, as a customer for life. That brand experience absolutely broke my trust with the brand. In front of her, I called the corporate office in New York, got the regional manager on the phone in front of her at the store, and shared my experience. And her response was very nice, and they made good on the sweater, and I still shop there regularly. Her response was, this is an airport store. We don't have the ability to engage the employee the same way we do in our regular stores. Yet that brand experience of this iconic brand was broken with me in 30 seconds. That trust was broken. That employee was not connected to the strategy. By the way, the airport employee is no excuse for me, but that employee did not understand the strategy, and that's what happened. 2 brand experiences. So that brand experience can never exceed the employee experience. 2 different experiences. One company that's investing heavily in making sure that employee understands how to bring the brand to life, and the other one where they weren't able to touch the employee. Those are the 2 experiences happened to me in the last 12 months. So why is it so hard for managers to engage employees to bring the brand to life? What's blocking them? Managers get up every day and they want to do a great job. What is so hard for them? Let's flip over the maps and we'll take a look. You've got these maps on your table. It's called Settling the Wild West of Management. We're just going to take a quick 5-minute look at what's preventing managers from engaging employees. So I'm going to ask you all to stand, face the map so that you can see it and see me at the same time. There you go. And we're going to have a group dialogue. All right? It's a group conversation. I need you to be participants and yell out your answers. Chris, will you raise your hand? My colleague is Chris Williams. He's the good-looking Brit right in the middle of the room, and he will help you if you have any problems. Just wave and he'll come over to you, all right? Okay, so you're already laughing. Why are you laughing, Stephanie? What did you find funny?
I'm laughing because the associate says, I only know what I can see of him if the horse is ass.
That's right. I can only see I only know what I can see of him, and it happens to be the horse's ass in the bottom right-hand corner. What else made you laugh over here at this middle table? Gentleman with the check shirt on. What did you say?
Oh, no, I was looking at the exact same thing.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's just say this. A lack of employee engagement is often a sign that employees don't understand the company's strategy or brand or goals, or how they impact them. So this is a pretty common scenario. And yet the solutions often elude managers. Leaders create strategies, they ask managers to execute them through their people, but this breakdown occurs. So let's find the manager on the left and the manager in the center of the visual. Describe the two different management styles you see. What do you see happening with the manager on the left? Anybody? Sorry? Dragging people along. Yeah, he's at a higher level, and he's dragging people. It's one way. What else? He's wearing a sheriff's badge. I'm the dude in charge. Okay, so now let's take a look at that manager in the center. What's going on with the manager in the center? And say it loud. He's asking questions. Reaching out to help. What else? Getting down at the same level as the employee. And providing a way up. Offering a hand. What challenges do the frontline employees on the left side of the scene face? What are the challenges with those employees? They don't respect the manager. That's one, sure. What else? Have no direction. They don't know where they're going. What else? Dug in. Heels are in the ground. I love this audience. No team. No sense of team. Just the guy. So how effective is the manager on the left at engaging his employees? How likely is it that the manager and his team will achieve their goals? Bring the brand to life in this case. How effective? Not possible. In other words, the old yell and tell, drag my people along, I'll tell you what to do, I'm the sheriff, doesn't work. One of our speakers talked about 4, maybe 5 generations in the workforce. There's a generation that worked for. There are continents that works for. It's not working here today. It's outdated. It's gone. It's the reason why I wrote the Un-Bossy Boss, which you'll all get a copy of after the session. That style management doesn't work anymore. Now let's take a look at the manager in the center of the visuals. What steps is she taking to create a meaningful connection with her employees? You mentioned some of them. What steps is she taking? She is reaching out to them. She's making the connection. She's going first. She's acting as the leader and going to them, not waiting for them to come to her. So we're going to talk about the powerful questions. If you look at the planks, you read the planks on the back of the wagon at the center of the visual, you can see what the manager has to gain by asking powerful questions. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about building trust, asking questions, and reaching out. I ask you to keep this visual right side up as we go through the rest of the presentation today, and you'll get a detailed understanding of what that manager in the center is doing to be able to create that relationship with their employees that allows them to understand the brand strategy and to bring it to life. If you're comfortable, have a seat again. I look at it as my mission today to help settle the wild west of managers, because I believe managers have the biggest impact. They are the key lever in your organization's brand success. Managers are either the choke point or the accelerant to your brand. Period, exclamation mark, end of story, highlighted, jump up and down. That's it. Managers are the conduit and the deciding factor of whether your business is successful or not. Look across your business, especially those in distributed business models, and see the high-performing locations and see the low-performing locations. Guess what? Oftentimes, most time, it's not the location. It's the person running that location. That works for departments as well. So let's take a look at the dynamics of managers, how we become managers, and what might be missing for them. Why do you think individual contributors get promoted to managers? Anyone? Great business results. What is your first name, please? Stacy, thank you. I'm Gary. Hi. Stacy, You make the best widget faster than anybody else in the organization. In your little section alone, you do the best work of anybody. You know how we're going to reward you, Stacy? We're going to give you 12 people. Wow, that makes so much sense. Let's do more of that. We reward people for doing great independent work by handing them human beings. Any of you parents in the room? Remember the first time the kid's in your hand? First kid? And you go, well, what am I supposed to do with this? Same thing for managers. I don't know, 22 years later, your kid's in therapy, and it's the same thing with your employees. You don't get a handbook, you got a really high chance of messing things up. Let's give them a handbook. Okay, individual contributor gets promoted. Oftentimes, their peers are now left behind. They have to manage their peers. Managers become responsible for bringing out the best in others. Managers' duty, responsibility is to bring out the best in others. What's interesting is that your individual contributors are responsible for bringing out the best in themselves. When I become a manager, I have to switch that responsibility, and the skills are absolutely opposites. They couldn't be further. They're north and south pole. What kind of training do we give that manager to bring out the best in others after they've been working for years bringing out the best in themselves? Oftentimes, not a lot. On top of that, there's an evolution going on out there in managers. How many people here use Google? How many people here go to Starbucks? Keep your hands up for Google, keep your hands up for Starbucks. How many people here shop Amazon? How many people here shop Zappos? There's not a dry hand in the house, maybe one or two, but you're writing, so you're excused. It's good content, I don't blame you. Okay. It was meant to be funny. So people expect to have this great experience. I'm with this huge insurance company the other day, and I said, and what are your clients saying about you? What are your customers saying? He said that they'd rather buy our product from Amazon or Google. Why? Because they like that customer experience. Our customers tell us we want a Zappos customer experience. The reality is that your customers are not judging you on healthcare or finance or retail or whatever it may be. They're judging you on customer experience, brand experience, overarching. Why can't everything be like a latte, mocha, frappo, venti, whatever? They want that. That's what they're looking for. There's a higher level that people are playing at. Your managers have to respond to that by evolving into great managers so they can engage their employees, and they have to do it with 5 generations in the workforce. It's time for an investment in our managers. They have to answer a higher calling of expectations and customer experience while they're dealing with 5 generations. Does it sound easy? It's not. There's a difference between a manager and a truly great manager. Let's just go through some of these together. If you look at it, part of this evolution to becoming a great manager requires managers shift their thinking from believing that they have all the answers. I'm the manager. I'm in charge. I have all the answers. That's what my job is. To help employees find the answers. I'm not going to come and tell you how to do it. I'm going to ask you. They go from presenting solutions to co-creating solutions. They move from telling employees what to do to coaching. They ensure their instructions are followed to they discover what their employees are passionate about. And they move from telling their employees how to improve to valuing employees' experience and working together to maximize their contribution. These are some of the differences from manager to great manager that you'll find also in the book that you'll get later. What we know is that people actually don't resist change. Change is constant. People don't resist change. People resist being changed by someone else. They have to be brought along on a journey as opposed to being told. Now, last discussion, someone mentioned that one of the reasons that people have a difficult time changing is they don't understand why change. I have the same belief. Someone can't change unless you help them understand why change, what's changing, and how it impacts them. That's the role of your manager. To bring that brand to life, they have to understand why, what, and how. If you think about it, in essence, a great coach is really what makes a great manager today in creating those conversations. Michael, the door just flew open again. So let's do a philosophy of coaching. A great manager is not a boss. That's why the name of the book is Un-Bossy Boss. A great manager is not a boss. They're a partner. They are next to their employees as a partner of the employee and teams to help them come to their own conclusions. When you come to your own conclusions about the business of why change, what will change, you can take action. You understand how to connect your goals with the organizational goals. Ultimately, the key message here is managers need to change their mindset to coaches who are partners. When you do that, shift happens. Lots of good shift. Let's talk about good shift. 15th century, pre-Christopher Columbus. The view of most sailors in the world was that the world is flat. Yes? Remember that from history? World is flat. So if I'm a sailor and the world is flat, what's my biggest fear? Say it out loud. I'm going to fall off the edge. So how adventurous am I? How willing am I to go out and find new territories? Not very. The second that shifted from the world is flat to the world is round, what happened? Go ahead. Exploration. Finding new worlds. Discovery. New possibilities became available. When you shift the mindset, new actions and behaviors come about, new discoveries are available to us. So the guiding principles of coaching are, in order to make these shifts, you have to find the right time to talk. Hanging out in the men's room by Ken was not the right time to talk. Not good. Don't know why, not good. Following him out to his car, not the right time to talk. You as a manager have to realize with your employees, there's a good time and a bad time, and the right conversation at the wrong time is the wrong conversation. You have to ask powerful questions, and we'll talk about that. You have to look, listen, and follow your intuition. If an employee is talking to you like this, and you say to them, good conversation, go get him, you have not looked. You have not really listened and used your intuition and asked those questions to find out where the motivations are with that employee. You have to constantly check for understanding and clarity. Make sure that you understand the story, that you both see the same thing. You may be saying bear, thinking grizzly, and he's naked, or taking an aspirin. Make sure that you are clear and understand what you're talking about. Offer your observations, and then you can create shifts. Let them know what you're thinking, obviously, and your input, so that you can create shifts. Hey, I understand that you meant aspirin and I meant grizzly. Let's talk about that. Ultimately, you want to brainstorm together. These are the principles of coaching that managers can take on to create new possibilities, to move from the earth is flat to the earth is round. There are 12 powerful questions. We're not going to go through them all. I do want you to know that there are some questions that you can arm managers with, and here's what my research told me very clearly. That managers, when asked, why don't you engage your employees around your strategy, in this case your brand strategy, why don't you? What was their first answer? No time. Who said that? You're so smart. Okay, you're welcome. So, no time. Guess what I found out? That's nonsense. When you dig down and you get into the second, what do you think their second answer is? Don't know how. You guys are a really smart audience. So you know what? When you go to the next question, which is, well, if you understood how, would you find the time? What do you think 97% of the people said? Of course I would. And it doesn't have to be formal hour-long conversations. It can be pass-bys in the hallway. Managers will tell you they don't have time. The real answer is they don't know how because they were promoted from an individual contributor with no training. So powerful questions have a couple of key things that we'll review. Powerful questions are open-ended, they're respectful, they're proactive, and they're non-judgmental. And I encourage all of you, when you're asking questions of your staff, to use these 4 measures before you ask the question. They're also in the book. Don't have to write them down. You'll see an example here. Make sure that your questions are powerful and that they are open-ended and not yes or no. That they are not judgmental and respectful, and obviously that you're really provoking thought. They fall into 3 major buckets. You want to do 3 things when you're asking your employees questions. You You want to align on the topic for the coaching conversation. Whether it's important to you or it's important to them, you want to align on that topic and make sure you know what you're going to talk about. There's a series of questions to help you do that. The second is you want to seek to understand their reality. Is the world flat or round to them? You've got to understand that. Make sure you're talking about the same thing. And the third is you need to kickstart shifts that drive action and behavior. Most managers go in and say, this is the behavior I want you to change. This is the action I want you to take. But they never create the shift from the world is flat to the world is round. Therefore, the actions don't change. You must seek to understand the current realities in order to create shifts that will ultimately lead to the change in actions and behaviors. And the biggest question you can ask your employee to understand really what's preventing them or holding them back from delivering that brand experience, just ask them what else. Anytime you ask them a question, try this at home with your significant other, with your kids. Somebody gives you an answer, just ask them one simple question. What else? Most of the time, the roadblocks that they're having fall in the answer that follows what else. It forces them to think one step deeper. Listen, your results are going to vary. How many of you ordered those machines? P90X, by the way, if you really do it, it works, so I'm not sure the results vary there. But most of those equipments, Christy Brinkley's doing more than just that machine, I just got to tell you. God bless her. So results are going to vary, but it's not necessarily based on you alone. There are different levels of receptivity to being coached in your organization. So as a manager, you will find people who are absolutely uncoachable. You will find people that are uncoachable at this moment because it's not the right time to talk. You'll find people that are coachable. They want to grow and learn. They want to deliver the brand experience. They want to be a part of the brand team. And then you find people that are highly coachable, and those are the people that are asking, that are reaching out to you and saying, help me grow. I want to do better. I want to improve. Coaching, because it's a partnership, requires you to be engaged and you to reach out. It also requires you to have an employee who wants to be engaged. And if you have employees who don't want to be engaged, they probably have an opportunity to be promoted to customer. Biggest thing for a manager is many managers take the role of chief engagement officer with their employees because it leads to a better career path with a better financial interest, but they don't love people. I have a couple of my clients in the room today where we've had this conversation. One just laughed. If you don't love people, you can't be a manager. You can't be a manager of people who bring the brand to life. As I started with, it's all emotion. You are making an emotional connection. The gentleman who spoke about the 15,000 letters, that's nothing but making an emotional connection to create a letter that comes back where someone says, my love. If that's not emotion, I don't know what is. If you're a manager and you don't love people, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your organization's time, and you're wasting the time of your people. You need to find a role where individual contributor allows you to feel valuable and deliver success to the business. Managers have a multiplier effect. You can't fake the care about developing others. But if you do love people and you do want them to grow, your investment pays off. Ultimately, your investment is the single biggest trigger in the business as a manager, or your managers in your business. If you invest in your people, if you coach them, if you treat them the way you want them to treat your customers, your brand will flourish. It is not the brand strategy. An A-level brand strategy that never reaches the front line is useless. A B-level brand strategy that's executed beautifully wins every time. It's not about having a great brand. It's having a great brand that managers can engage their employees in so employees can bring it to life. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. And we have 7 minutes for questions and answers. So your thoughts. Yes, please, Stacy.
So I work for IBM, and we actually do very good manager training, very disciplined, a lot of what you talked about. We just completed an employee engagement survey, and the most disengaged part of the population are the managers.
No surprise.
So, we're kind of stuck in this place now. What do we do? Because they're the people that need to activate the employees, and they're the ones who are struggling.
Yeah. So is that a statement or is there a question?
I don't know. It's if you have a
We're going to
thought.
share. Let's share. So, if I was sitting with you in a one-on-one client meeting, the questions I'd ask for you are you educating managers on EQ or IQ?
Probably IQ.
Okay. So I don't want to expose too much about your organization. I'll respect the confidentiality. So let's make up another organization. ABC organization has great manager training. This happens all over manager land. Great manager training around the tactics, around the metrics, around the measures, around business performance, about processes. Stacy's shaking her head so she knows this company. Does that resonate with you?
I think our managers have like 350 separate
K-
processes.
KPIs, right? And processes. Great. Where do we talk about human beings work here? Where do we talk about, I've got to engage a human being to bring our strategy to life? Again, today we're talking about brand strategy. It's missing. Why I wrote this book on coaching after 14 years in consulting and management and working in, Chris, what is our business, please? Strategy execution, thank you. 14 years working in strategy execution. Why I wrote this book, besides my investment in my many years of certification in executive coaching, is because organizations are forgetting that human beings work there. Human beings bring your strategy, your brand strategy to life, and we're not educating and engaging people on how to connect with human beings. So, Stacy, with the very little I know in that interaction, I'd ask you to take a look at what education is on EQ, and how are you hiring managers for EQ, not just IQ. A lot of smart people around there that just stink at engaging people. Don't like them, don't want to do it. Other question or comment? Please. Full disclosure, we know each other well.
Okay, there we go. What do you think communicators can do from where we sit to kind of help with this and help our organizations really understand the role of the manager?
Well, first I think you can elevate it. So you have to elevate managers as the key. I'll tell you what my experience is. That most organizations, you have leaders, and someone else said this today, who say, we've got to make a change. And they immediately say, let's go to the front line where that connectivity to our customer is and tell them what we need to do. And they bypass managers. Absolutely bypass them. So I think number one is elevate the importance of the role of managers. Two is simple, invest in managers, not only in EQ, not only in IQ, but in EQ. And evaluate your managers to really see which ones love people and want to be in the people business, and which ones love process and want to be in the process business, and separate them out. Some thoughts there. Yes, are you pulling me off now? No. Okay, good. Hi, Rita. What's your question?
My question is that EQ is something important for the managers, but in today's world we have so much collaboration we have to do even among individual contributors, and I'm just wondering if you have an opinion about EQ with all the people that are individual contributors reporting to the managers who have good EQ, because it seems like that's still important even for the individual contributor.
Yeah, it depends on the organization you're in. Certainly if you're in healthcare, I think you're hiring at all levels for EQ. I do think it's up to the managers to treat everybody as an individual and understand if they're working with an EQ or an IQ, a left brain or a right brain employee, and create ways forward for either one of them. So well-rounded teams are going to have both. Managers need to be able to deal with both and create career paths for both of them. Yes, sir, please.
Okay, so this question may be a little bit beyond the scope of the discussion, and so if anyone has an answer.
What he's saying is he doesn't think that I can handle it, which is probably true, so we're going to open it up.
Not
please,
necessarily.
Go ahead.
All right, so you've described what I would consider to be a best practice, which is look at individuals and determine their EQ competency before making them managers. Whether they love people, love employees would be a good thing to consider. Most companies...
People managers, before making them people managers.
Before making
yes.
them people managers,
yes.
right. Most companies don't do that because I guess historically, what you're doing is you're trying to reward individual performance and you're trying to address career path and career progression. And when you're benchmarking compensation, most times it's a function of how many people do you manage.
Yes, correct.
And so are you aware of any company that's actually done a pretty good job of taking individual performance, rewarding it with career progression and compensation, and on the flip side, promoting the right people to manage people?
Yeah,
I've never seen that happen.
Yeah, it's rare. So I don't know that I can pull out very salient names off the top of my head right now of who's doing it really well. I can tell you functions. I think the unfortunate thing is that most of the time when an individual contributor can soar and reach greater levels of economic status, it's almost solely in sales. So it's really, really difficult because if you're a nurse and you want to get ahead, you become a nurse manager. And what you love is caring for the patient. All of a sudden now you're managing people who care for the patient. It's really difficult in that setting. So how do you pay that nurse now more money to do the same thing as someone else is very difficult. And I don't have that answer, but I'm really happy for others who do. If anybody has a suggestion. Where I see it most successful is in sales, unfortunately. So I want to thank you all for being here. I've got the card that says wrap it up. We're going to have lunch afterwards. I'm happy to talk to anybody at lunch who has more questions, and I appreciate your investment of time today. Thank you.